Welcome everybody, my name is EruptionFang and this is Volume 6, Episode 7, titled The Grim Reaper. So we start off back at the Spring Relic door with Cinder and Neo. Cinder is showing Neo why they need to hunt down RWBY, by showing her a door that she herself cannot open, and telling her about the relics, which she may or may not know what exactly they do. How is this convincing Neo in any way? Okay, well, it seems to have worked as Neo agrees that they should team up to kill RWBY. This scene went exactly as expected from last we left off. I'll be honest, I didn't expect them to go all the way back here because what would be the point? No, really, what's the point? Does Neo need to have more of a motivation to go after RWBY to avenge Roman? Is that not good enough? Does she need to know about the relics and what they do and Salem's plan and also Salem? Cinder really did put Neo into the loop. Like, too much into the loop. Cinder acts as though she found the perfect loophole to get around Salem. Oh, I'll just bring this other girl along and she'll kill RWBY. Salem never said I couldn't do that. Oh, I'm sure that'll go over just great if that ingenious plan succeeds. Salem will just be like, oh, you really got me there. This plan is terrible. I already hate that Neo is tagged along with Cinder for reasons I've already explained in a previous breakdown. But this plan is not only terrible, there's just no need for it. Revenge is like the only motivating factor, so what was the point in telling Neo all about this? What does she have to gain from anything? Why would she care if the relic got to Atlas? It's not like RWBY's being locked away. She can still kill her no matter where she go or what she do. I feel as though if anything, Neo should have had a similar reaction that Team RWBY had with Ozpin. Just like a, what the fuck? Roman died for this stupid and crazy shitstorm? But it's passing it off as though Cinder convinced her that, yeah, you know what? Salem does have a good plan. Roman did die for a good cause. I'm on your side now. I don't care that this is Cinder's plot. This makes sense for Cinder, but not in the slightest for Neo, and that's why this plotline is failing. It doesn't feel as though they had a good reason to bring Neo back. It seems more like a, well, the audience keeps asking for her return, put her in. So instead of naturally re-emerging into the plot and taking her into a direction that makes sense for her character, she's become Cinder's sidekick. The whole revenge, I'm hunting down RWBY as well as Cinder because she could also be blamed for Roman's death, was good, but it didn't go anywhere or mean anything. Good reason to bring her back? Yes. But that's all they knew how to do. I know I'm gonna get a lot of comments saying, well, just give it time, I'm sure Neo will backstab Cinder or they'll reverse. But that's not how these videos go. RWBY is a show and should be viewed how it does things episodically. If RWBY were a movie, then yes, I wouldn't stop the movie 40 minutes in and begin criticizing it. But RWBY is viewed week by week over the span of multiple months. The show wants you to think a certain way. By saying, just let the show play out, then literally any and all criticisms are rendered useless. RWBY needs development? Just give it time. How much time does a show allow itself to not give the main protagonist development before those comments say, alright, this is a bit ridiculous? Apparently 5 volumes. These criticisms about Neo can be fixed if the show plays its cards right, but that doesn't mean that I have to constantly be giving it the benefit of the doubt and constantly just wait. Every scene, moment by moment, are shaping how I feel about a specific arc. Once it's finished, I'll judge it as a whole, but until then, given the information we know about Neo right now, this isn't right for her character. Anyway, so we get a flashback of young Maria. She gets into a random encounter with a Nevermore, showing off her scythe skills as well as her silver-eyed powers. When on the ground, she is attacked by an assassin whose boss sent her to kill Maria. The fight doesn't go as favored. Maria gets her silver eyes slashed out by a sword, rendering her blind. As a last form of revenge, she manages to kill Talk, and we cut to modern day. It turns out that Maria was actually an incredibly well-known huntsman known as the Grim Reaper. All kinds of stories and legends were spoken of her, and Crow was a huge fan. He even designed his scythe based off of hers. But Maria is a bit depressed, being reminded of her past and how she failed. RWBY tries convincing her to train her, but that idea is interrupted by Jean, and the characters overlook Argus. Alright, so before we go any further, let's talk about that chunk. The Grim Reaper. To my knowledge, there wasn't any sort of foreshadowing that this character even existed. No mention of any sort of thing that the audience can look back at and be like, oh my god, it was there all along. And it didn't need to be. It doesn't matter that we've never heard of the Grim Reaper until this moment. While foreshadowing is cool for the audience to feel like they overlook details that seemed irrelevant, despite the fact that you couldn't know that you overlooked a thing that was a thing without knowing that that thing is a thing, but I digress. The only real sort of plot the backstory hinted at was Talk's boss. She clearly was working for someone who has an interest in Silver Eyes. I know a lot of people probably think that it's Salem, because who else would it possibly be? But I'ma just go for the twist. I'm going on the outskirts of Crackpot to say that it wasn't Salem that hired Talk. I know that's incredibly vague, but the show hasn't exactly painted many other culprits it could be. I would say Ozpin, but then people would think that that's just my hate boner coming out again. The reason I say it isn't Salem is because the show has made it a clear point that Salem wants the Silver-Eyed Warriors alive. Cinder, do not kill, I want alive. Yes, this is the past and things could have changed, but just to be different to the masses, I'm gonna broadly say that Salem wasn't the culprit who hired Talk. I also on a side note want to talk about Talk. Her semblance, according to one of the animators, is invulnerability. That 60 seconds she was clocking was her invulnerable state. That semblance in its own right is ridiculously overpowered, and she places her faith in her sword combat? She should have just been a bomb. If you can't get hurt, then who cares how you kill someone? I know this was a backstory about how Maria lost her silver eyes, and you can't do that if you exploded, but invulnerability is not what I thought that semblance was. I thought it was just a boost. She's faster, she's stronger for 60 seconds. But if it really was invulnerability, then she deserved to die. As for what happened to Maria's eyes, I would say was anticlimactic. For revealing she was a silver-eyed warrior, I would have expected her to not lose her eyes in a generic fight. I mean, Crow stated, legendary warrior. We as the audience knew about the silver eyes and the potential they provided. People thought that they were better than the maidens. But then Talk, we know nothing about her, seems like a normal person with her given semblance, practically beat a silver-eyed warrior. I'd place this on par with Amber's death. Powers of the maiden outclassed by Cinderella, a street rat, and an assassin's son? You expect more from these types of characters. And yeah, Maria did win, but it wasn't that impressive. Also, why did she shrink and how did she get out of this canyon blind? I'm just bringing up the important questions here. Anyway, back to the episode. So we enter Argus, where all of our characters reunite. It's happy, it's uplifting, and we're introduced to Saffron, one of Jean's sisters. Nothing much happens here. They're just game planning for how they're gonna get to Atlas. It was all just a harmless adventure through Argus, which is whatever. It wasn't interrupting a major plot point or being intrusive in any way. The show saw that it had the opportunity to lean back and take it slow, which it did pretty well. The town was given enough lore. Jean and Saffron's relationship is sibling-like. It didn't need to do anything, and so there's nothing that really needs to be said about it. It was fun and entertaining. Now, currently my biggest fear with the story, as it presents itself right now, revolves around Team Juniper. I'd have been perfectly fine if they had just been written out of the whole season and somehow already made their way to Atlas. But that's not what happened and not what I want to talk about. You see, the moment we entered Argus, the tone was as opposite as it could have been from last episodes. From dreadful and dreary to uplifting and funny. Those two are drastic differences. Both did what they do incredibly well, but this season is going to have to mix them. Team RWBY learned the history of the world and Ozpin and Salem and their goal. Crow was betrayed. Team RWBY is questioning what they do, but Team Juniper doesn't know. And that's my worry with what the show is going to do. With the tone we got this episode, it doesn't seem like they're going to drop the Ozpin bomb on them in the coming episodes. And that thought stirs in my brain as a mistake the show would be making. It hasn't happened, but speculation time. If Team RWBY hide the information, then all meaning is lost from the messages past episodes were saying. When Crow told RWBY not to lie to Oscar when he feared whether or not he's his own person, loses meaning. In this scenario, it sets them up to see things from Ozpin's perspective, keeping secrets, choosing when to tell the truth and when to lie. Personally, I hate this path. If this were to happen, Team RWBY would just become Ozpin and Team Juniper would become Team RWBY. What do you mean this, that, and the other thing? How could you hide this from us? We'll literally be repeating what the past episodes just did. That's why I hope they go down the path of just telling them the truth. They're not Ozpin. They're not gonna lie to each other. That's sort of been the message that the past episodes were giving us. Jean, for as much as the show has kept trying to give him development and in small increments succeeding, this truth is the biggest developmental hurdle for Jean to be faced with. To hear Ozpin's history and that he has no plan and that Pyrrha died for absolutely no reason, how Jean reacts to that is the development the show wants him to have. Ozpin has locked himself away in Oscar's head. It is inevitable that someone from Team Juniper notices that Ozpin isn't there. And that's the point in where the show will either lie and be just like Ozpin, repeating history as it's always been, or tell the truth and set a standard for the new generation. I feel as though the solution here is as clear as it could possibly be, but for whatever reason, I fear the show will have the characters lie. I know there are a portion of people saying they need to get to Atlas first, they have a goal and they need to focus on that, they can't be burdened with the truth. But what's the point in getting to Atlas first if there is no plan? Like I said, if they lie, then the message, their reaction would all become hypocritical. Crow can't be depressed and pissed that Ozpin lied to him because now he's lying with the exact same information. The path of lying does more harm than good from this season's quality that it's been providing. I hope this is all misplaced fear and the show does in fact continue to make decisions that make sense and do good for the series. I'm not expecting much out of Nora and Ren, but Jean, now is the moment the show needs Jean to be as relevant to the plot as possible. This episode, I would say, was pretty standard. I continue to hate what they're doing with Neo, and that'll probably remain a negative for the rest of the volume, unfortunately. But everything else the episode did was average at worst. We got a fight scene, which if that's your thing, then cool. The Silver Eyes were anticlimactic, but it wasn't bad. Crow's lore was just lore, and Argus was pretty fun. Like I said, it didn't do anything, but it didn't need to do anything in the current moment. It just expanded the world and introduced us to more characters that don't have any particular sort of relevance. The comedy is there and it did what it set out to do. Argus is what makes this episode more positive. Everything else was either bad or just average.